Hello and welcome to today's video. I'm very excited about today's video because I'm going to be showing you exactly how I scale brands to over $1 million a month from scratch. So if you're just starting out, this is perfect. If you are somebody that has an established brand, great. Maybe you're already doing $500,000 a month and you want to know what the next steps are. You're going to get an unbelievable amount of clarity from today's video. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Richards. I'm the founder of Gold Standard Growth, and I wanted to just show you some proof to show that I actually walk the walk instead of just talking the talk before we get into everything. So here's a brand here. This is the last 365 days. I may have to go ahead and blur out the brand name, but I will also show you the last 30 days real quick. Now I should have named this video how to scale a brand to over 2 million a month, but it's just not, it's not the same, is it? It just doesn't have the same snap to it. It probably wouldn't do as well. So we're going to get into things. If you have not grabbed a notepad and pen, now is the time to do it whilst I set up this whiteboard. And apologies, I've just got this camera. I'm not the best on camera, so bear with me, but I'll make up for it with the value that is about to be shared. So I've just proven my point there, haven't I? I'm literally holding up a whiteboard. So we're going to get into things. We're going to waste no time. And the first thing that I want to talk to you about is something that people completely overlook. And this is the market. Now, which market should you enter for the best results? Now, I'm going to give you three here that you can start with. And for me, and the results that myself and my team have brought to the market, they've been mainly within these three markets to be able to scale to the ridiculous numbers that we're talking about today. So the US, Canada, and Australia. All of these markets here are great places to start, particularly the US, for one reason only. Sales tax within these countries are relatively low, and I know people are already saying, well, what about the UK? Now, the UK is a great place to build a brand, but it is not necessarily the best place to scale a brand massively, because to scale, you need huge margins, which we'll get into later on in this video. But in the UK, you're paying 20% to the tax man through VAT. Now, you'll probably have some expenses that you can claim back, especially if you're producing the product in the UK. But for most of you, you'll be producing the product in China or another country, so you're not able to claim VAT on that. So VAT, it is an issue in the UK, and what I see time and time again is that UK brands that do very well, they build an exceptional brand. In fact, I would say that UK brands, from a fundamental perspective of building a business on the stone instead of the sand, the UK generally does a better job of this because they're up against this. So they have to be the best. They have to split test everything. Everything pretty much has to be perfect. And then what happens is a UK brand that's doing very well enters the US market and realizes they've just been playing on hard mode and makes a crazy amount of money in the States, Canada, or Australia. So I just wanted to touch upon that real quick before getting into the product side of things, because I think it's super important. I think people overlook it, and if you're a beginner, then you probably haven't even thought about that. So product. Arguably the most important thing within the business. Well, it is the most important thing in the business. 70% of your focus should be on building a good product. So what makes a great winning product? Now, I want to go through something that I haven't really heard anybody speak about, which is the tiers of winning e-commerce products. Now, there's three tiers to winning e-commerce products. And we're going to go through them all. So, and just to let you know, all of these are good. It's just some of them are better than others, especially for scaling to over $1 million a month. So at number 3, we have mid-tier priced, if that makes any sense, items which are one-time purchase. So think about your headphones, electrical equipment most of the time. It doesn't mean that this is a bad product to go for. You can have an incredibly successful business out of something that's one-time purchase. Now, it's very simple. I'm actually going to do a completely separate video on winning products and how to identify if a brand is a winner, but that would probably put this video into an hour long. So I'll do a separate video on that and I'll link that down below. The second tier that we have here is HT, which is high ticket. So furniture, any sort of equipment that's super expensive. Generally, you can get very, very good margins on high ticket products. So then number 1, and this one for me is the daddy. This one is absolutely amazing. So number 1 is a consumable that can be purchased on subscription. Now, this business model here is the creme de la creme. If you can have people subscribe to your product, you are going to be saving a lot on your cost per acquisition, because you'll have customers coming through every month that you don't necessarily need to pay for that cost per acquisition once you've got them once. It is a absolutely amazing business model, because as you are selling to people for the first time, what you're also doing is you're building this essentially a bank of subscribers. That is an awful drawing of scaling up a bank of subscribers, but it gives you a lot of options. If you can scale a brand to 150k a month on subscriptions, it gives you a lot more budget to then play with, to then get in more cold first-time customers. So just to summarize that real quick, we've got mid-tier priced items that are one-time purchase, and we've got high ticket, and then we've got consumable subscriptions. This is why supplement brands do so well online. This is why skincare brands do so well online. This is why makeup does so well online. This is why pet products, or I don't know if you've seen those raw feed companies or the dog food companies that are a subscription model, they all kill it because of this. Now, all of these are great, but what I would advise to be able to scale is that you want to be aiming for 70% margins. Because the more margin that you have, the more room that you have to acquire a customer. Now, as I'm going through this, I'm aware that people may have further questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reply to every single comment down below. I'm going to make sure that I allocate the time just so that I can get back to every single one of you, and also it will give me some other video ideas as well. So the product side is hugely important. Most people completely overlook it. They're thinking that a ad or a platform, TikTok shop or whatever, is their key to success. The product is the key to success. But how do we make as much money as possible with that product? Well, what we want to be doing is concentrating on offers. So essentially, you want to make people feel stupid for not buying more. So what we're going to do, very quickly, I'm going to run you through a couple of options for doing this. Now, I'm not going to talk through the psychology. I'm not going to go through and make this longer than it needs to be. I'm going to give you 2 offers that you can use and how to pair it with a shipping threshold to push people over the line to spend more. So offer 1 is buy 1, get one at 20% off. Okay, this is an entire, not necessarily funnel, but this is an entire offer that I use with a lot of brands that we scale, and I'm going to go through exactly why we do this. So buy one, get one at 20% off, and then obviously you've got the buy one option, right? Then what I would do is have a third option. So it would be buy two, get one at 50% off. And then the fourth one, which would be super high AOV, would be buy three, get one free. Now, what you really want to be aiming to do here is making the customer feel stupid for not buying more. And ideally, your best margins and your best chance of doing that are going to be within this third tier here. Now, by just putting this offer together, we are not going to be able to push people to just go with this offer. Most people, if you do not add a free shipping threshold, will just go with the buy one, and then you'll have a few people that will go with the buy one, get one at 20% off. But how do we get people to spend more, and how do we push people to spend more? Well, the way that you do this is with, now I don't have too much room on the board to do it, but you want to have a free shipping threshold. So it's good that I told you to note all this down, because this is just horrendous. But the free shipping threshold should be in line with the pricing of the third offer. So for example, if your third offer means that the cart value will be £58, let's say, then I would put the free shipping threshold at 50. Because then what you're doing is you're giving the discount to incentivize people to spend more, but then you're also coming along here and saying, hey, free shipping, and people love free shipping. So you're then pushing people into that even further, and what we're trying to do here is raise that AOV. If you can raise AOV, you raise your profit per order, you have more room to spend on ads. This is what we're trying to do, and that is a fundamental thing that you need to understand. If you have more margin within your business, you can afford to outbid your competitors, and you can afford to win. And this is the formula of how to do it. So I'm just trying to think real quick, is there anything else that I would add to the offer side of things? This is pretty much it. You'll find that most people, they won't actually go for this final one here. But if you can push people into this one, then it's going to make a huge difference. A brand without a offer system like this is going to have a lower AOV than a brand that does have an offer system like this. So this is super important. This can take your AOV from, let's say it's £34, this can take it all the way up to £38, £40, and you haven't necessarily done anything except just change up the offer. So I'm looking at my notes real quick. I don't think there's anything else to add on the offer side. So we will get into the advertising side of things. So now you understand the different tiers of winning e-commerce products. You understand how to get people to spend more. I've just realized there is one thing that I wanted to add, which is you want to add, oh no, you want to add a guarantee. So 30-day money back guarantee if you don't like the product. I would ideally make the customer pay for shipping, because then they're in most cases not going to send it back. But I would add this guarantee just to make the customer feel super comfortable buying it. They know that if worse comes to worse, they can send it back for £3 or £4 and they're going to get an entire refund. Now, if you're thinking at this point, oh, I don't want to offer a guarantee, it's because your product sucks. So don't do that. That is not something that you can scale to over 1 million a month. And if you did scale that to over 1 million a month, you're going to have a huge amount of headaches and you're building your business on the sand. So wanted to just note on that before we get into the advertising side of things. And again, if you have any questions, put them down below in the comments. I'm going to be replying to every single one, and it will give me some inspiration to make videos like these where I am breaking my arm holding up this whiteboard. So in regards to ads, the biggest problem that people have when it comes to advertising is that they think that their ads will save a bad product and a bad offer. People talk about creative all the time. Oh, you need 30 creatives, you need, per month, you need this type of video, you need all of this going on. The reality is you don't, if you have the first two things in line. So I would definitely have as many creatives as possible. That's not to say that there isn't credit to, having a lot of creatives. I understand what people are saying there, but most people get it wrong. Your advertising should really be 10% of your focus. The problem that I see is that most business owners, they start a bad business essentially, and then they spend 80% of their time focusing on the ads and saying, oh, well, we need to move to TikTok Shop because that's the new hot thing. We need to run these type of ads. We need to only be on Google. All of this is just excuses, and essentially you need to go back to the drawing board, either focus on building a better product or you just need a better offer. So ads are something that essentially, if you were to think of it as a real life situation, it's just you shouting about your product and your offer, and the market is going to tell you if it likes it or not. So don't take it personally. Now, when it comes to your advertising, this is the split that I would run. So 70% is going to be Facebook traffic. The reason is because if you can't scale it on Facebook, you're not going to be able to scale it to 1 million a month in most cases. So this Facebook, this is going to be cold. Now I know people are going to say, oh, don't you know, Facebook has a bit of automatic retargeting now. Yes, I know. I have to look at the frequencies of ads every single week. So Facebook is going to be driving about 70% of the traffic. Then we're going to allocate roughly 20% to Google. Now this is going to be warm. Typically, now you're going to have PMAX in there, you're going to have maybe video shopping ads, maybe you're going to have demand gen ads, but typically for this kind of setup, I would have that 20% mainly being search, PMAX and some shopping. So you have 70% Facebook cold, you're going to have 20% on Google, and then as well I would just add in 10% on TikTok D2C. Now we'll talk about TikTok in a second further, but that is again going to be cold. I don't know why I've put that in capitals and that lowercase, but when it comes to this mix, what we're essentially doing here is we're running Facebook as the North Star of the business. You need to have your return on ad spend at a suitable level there to be able to then create a load of traffic, a load of people that have gone to the website that might not have checked out. And then you are going to allocate some budget to Google to pick up a lot of that traffic. And typically you should see your Facebook ads at profitable. And then Google is going to be super profitable. And then with TikTok, you're probably looking at break even or slight amounts of profit. Now, TikTok D2C, it sends so much traffic, but the problem is it's low quality traffic. So what we do is we still allocate 10% of the budget to TikTok D2C ads, But then Google does a lot of the heavy lifting with the warm traffic, and also Facebook is going to retarget a bit there as well. Now, if you're finding that TikTok is just not working for you, just completely cut it out and reallocate the percentages. But this is the mix that I use here. And the way that we scale the brands with this kind of system is we go Facebook first, and then we scale Google. Sometimes we scale them at the same time, but as long as they are roughly around these type of percentages when it comes to ad spend, you are going to be able to scale very, very well. So that's just the mix of how everything should be done on the advertising side. I can make separate videos on UGC creation, what type of ads you should be running. But what I want you to understand is that you shouldn't be getting lost in all of this. You shouldn't be getting super deep into the data and saying, oh, well, if we just made this one tweak, or if we just had this one campaign set up, or if we just spent more on TikTok ads, we'd be profitable. If you're having those kind of conversations, go back to the first two steps, because that is going to be way more impactful on your business than any changes that you can make to your advertising. Build a better business, build it on the rock, the stone. Don't build it on the sand and expect these platforms to come through because somebody told you an awesome Facebook ads hack. Now, if you're at the point where you have good numbers here, I'm just going to wipe this down, and you are able to scale because you have all your ducks in a row. There's a couple of bonuses that you can then use once you're at that 500,000 a month and you want to add in extra revenue. So as long as everything has gone well there, here's a couple of bonuses. So the first one is Amazon. You'll see a huge conversion rate lift if you add an Amazon option to your checkout on Shopify. People like to buy with Amazon. I actually work with a brand right now that saw a 8% rise in sales just from adding in Amazon. People like to shop with it. They don't trust a D2C brand as much as they trust Amazon with their shipping, and they know that they're covered financially if anything goes wrong. Then, and the one that everybody is going on about right now, TikTok Shop. Potentially one of the most powerful things that I've seen come out in the last few years, and if done right, is amazing for a lot of different reasons. So number one is revenue. Number two is UGC. The amount of UGC that you can get from TikTok Shop is absolutely crazy. And you can use that across all your other socials as long as you reach out to those people and say, hey, you made an awesome video for us on TikTok Shop. Can we pay you X amount and we'll use the video? Because if it's banging on TikTok Shop, it's probably going to bang on Facebook and Google as well. So then the third thing in regards to TikTok Shop is halo effect. You will see, and I've seen, a 5% rise in D2C from TikTok Shop. Now, don't get this twisted. It doesn't mean that I've seen TikTok Shop add 5% to the business overall in revenue. It adds generally a lot more than that. And you should use the same offer processes that I spoke about previously in this video. But I'm talking about D2C straight to the website. Seen a 5% rise since using TikTok Shop with one of the brands we work with, just on the D2C side, and also one of the brands we work with right now is doing over 300,000 a month just on TikTok Shop. But there are so many different opportunities within TikTok Shop. Revenue is great, but this is really important as well. You are getting a huge amount of UGC. You're not having to pay an influencer $500 to say that your product's great, because you're just going to send them a product for free, right? Then you have this halo effect as well, and all of these things help you scale further and further. So I know this video is a lot. Now, there may have been a couple of things that I've said that have left you with questions. drop them in the comments. I'm going to drop this down here real quick. But please, if you have any questions, please drop them down below in the comments. I'm going to be going through every single one. And if there's one that I can't answer by just typing back to you, I'll make a full video on it. And I hope that you found this video incredibly, incredibly valuable. Please give it a like, subscribe. I don't really have much else to say, but have an amazing day. I will speak to you very, very soon.